The ModernJeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers.
Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, is another episode of the Modern Jeeper Show with me, Matson from MetalCloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Rockstar Jeep Girl, Jessy.
Hey.
You know, I kind of realized, like, all of our new followers, like, I'm from MetalCloak, you're Mr. Modern Jeeper, and she's Rockstar Jeep Girl, and nobody really knows who we are. Like,
That's
maybe
a good point.
we might want to, like, do, like, a different intro. Like, my name's Matson. I'm the co-founder and vice president of MetalCloak, a manufacturer of body armor and suspension systems based in Northern California. And I am one of your co-hosts. And with me is Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne. Corey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You know, that's a good point, and I never really thought about it, but we do have a lot of people that approach us, and they're like, hey, we listen to your podcast all the time. And I wonder how many of those folks are like, I don't know, these guys just ramble on about some stuff, and we like what they say, or they don't like what we say, and that's why they listen. I don't know. So my name's Corey Osborne. I've been an enthusiast in the off-road industry for like 25 years. Had a prior corporate life, and I wasn't enjoying that so much, and really enjoyed the off-road lifestyle. So a number of years ago, like, I don't know, 7 years ago, Mr. MetalCloak there, Matson, called and said, we have this idea for this trailer. And I said, well, that's really dumb. And went out and met with the engineers, because at that time in my world, I was kind of maybe a little bit more of an extreme. I didn't have a lot of, how do I explain this? I didn't have a lot of suspension design experience. I knew kind of what worked and what we'd all done to our own Jeeps. But so I went out to MetalCloak, spent some time with the engineers, and was blown away by not only the answers that I received, but just how things were manufactured, and learned a whole bunch more about how things get designed and how they work. Agreed to take on the challenge of pulling the CTI trailer around the country, and have now seen, gosh, I don't know, this year we'll end up seeing probably 10,000 total rigs on the CTI trailer at every large off-road event around the country. Yeah. I used to do it by myself. My dad used to come with me sometimes. But a number of years ago, this lovely lady next to me, and also an off-road enthusiast, joined me, and that's Miss Jessie Greenland.
I am.
Rockstar
I just
Jeep Girl.
did hair with kids. Fell in love with off-roading. He got to meet my people when we were in Oklahoma that actually got me started. I blamed it on them. And then got into Ladies Off-Road Network, and here we are.
Wow.
Many years later.
Had Rockstar, you got to tell people what Rockstar is all about.
Well, I love to sing. He hasn't got to witness my karaoke skills yet.
Really?
I mean, he hears me sing, but I always wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah, it's usually has her headphones in, and she's either working out or running around the house or something, and she's singing. And I'm talking to her, and she can't hear me.
Like,
and
excuse me, what?
All I can think of is that scene from 48 Hours. Roxanne!
Yeah, so that became kind of my nickname, and I love stars are my favorite shape. So kind of rock crawling, stars, singing, kind of just, and I loved Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero is one of my favorites. I had to fight the microphone from my kids. They're like, oh my God, she's doing it again.
Mom, please. My friends are
Like,
over.
can I sing now?
I want to play.
No, y'all play those things. I'm singing.
Well, cool. So that's a recap, everybody, of who we are, just because I know that for many of you are new fans and don't really know, like, other than going back and listening to pre-episodes. And if you listen to the 163 episodes out there, you probably learn a thing or two about us, because we're fairly open and talk a lot about things, personal and otherwise, business and otherwise. And at some point when we hit episode 200, maybe we'll write a little book about, the life and times of Corey, Jessy, and Matson, as seen through the eyes of a podcast.
Years ago, and I've come across so many people throughout the years, and people that weren't necessarily YouTube famous back in the day, and you know, we promoted the lifestyle, the off-road lifestyle, for years and years, and even when I wasn't working in the industry, it was something I was very passionate about and would share stuff, and people would go, "Man, this is amazing! You know, you get to go to these cool places and meet these cool people." And it's kind of funny because over the years, some of them have become quote unquote YouTube famous, I guess, and you know, and kudos to them. And I think that we all, as off-road enthusiasts, whether you're a Jeeper or just a, I don't know, a Bronco owner or a Toyota owner, we all share the same values and the same goals of enjoying the outdoors. So it's definitely been an evolution. I think that throughout the days, you know, the overlanding thing, which we all used to just call camping, has become more prolific. And again, rigs have changed. We've changed over the last, gosh, 15, 20 years. I mean, think about, I was just reading an article and actually shared it on ModernJeeper.com. And our friend Chris Collard got to spend some time with Mark Allen. And I think, Matson, you shared this link with us. It was, it's a very good YouTube video. And Mark and Chris talk about the history of not only the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon and how it, but also the Rubicon Trail. And I think that, I don't know, I don't think the new Jeeper understands where that came from or how it has evolved. But the height of the Jeep and the size of the Jeep and its off-road capabilities have increased, I mean, 500% in the last 15 years. Yeah. I mean, what we used to build and struggle to make parts for and all that, now that's the same rig you can buy off the lot for, you know, 60 grand.
Well, you know, you mentioned it, but this article that you just posted up on ModernJeeper.com, which, by the way, for those who are listening, ModernJeeper.com is our news site. Go to ModernJeeper.com to see all kinds of latest news, information, and things and stories from out in the trail. But this Lunatic Fringe group, right? I didn't know the story. I remember being like over at my uncle's house sometime, and my uncle was a big Jeeper, had Jeeps all his life, and he wasn't a rock crawler. He was a desert guy, so he loved taking his Jeep. He had it because he lived in Tahoe and he had snow. And then when he moved to Minden, Nevada, he would take his Jeep and just go out into the desert of BLM land just to find old mining parts for his little mining museum in his backyard. And so that's Jeeps to him. But he tells me one day, and it's like, I think it was like, I don't know, it wasn't too long ago, but he basically says, "Hey, you hear about this thing called the Rubicon coming out? Like they're coming out with a new 4-to-1 transfer case, like this whole new model's coming out." He was really excited about it. Yeah, it was kind of cool, but it wasn't what I was focused on at the time. So it was like, that's cool. It's okay. That's awesome. And he gave the article to read about it. I think it was JP Magazine or something, right? Article about this. But I had no idea really what the origins were until the story came across. And you posted it up there, and the article is based on a interview that Chris Collard did about the origins of Rubicon and what it took. And it was basically a bunch of guys at Jeep who were building it using their own credit cards and building their own rigs, building what they want to do. And to think about the idea that at the time, Jeep had no clue that there was this thing called like off-roading and rock crawling that people would do recreationally for fun.
That Jeep wouldn't expect people to go Jeeping off-road for fun. And even Mark laughed about that, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I mean, it's this idea that this world that we're in now, where we couldn't imagine it any other time. Ford working hard to match the Jeep, other vehicles trying to be like the Jeep. When at the time when the Rubicon was created, it was like, nah, who would actually do this? Nobody's going to go and do this. We'll make 1,000 units, and now they're doing. Now it's a third of
their business, which we're talking about 60,000 Rubicons a year. They thought that they would literally sell 3,000 rigs, and the sales would drop off, and they'd move on to just building their standard rigs again. And wow, look where we are now.
Yeah, so quite a home run. But that's great when you let some people be creative. Let some people get freedom, have the freedom to do stuff, which I think is probably the legacy that is now known as the Mopar you're right, the skunk works or whatever they call it these days.
Right.
You can't call
Yep.
it skunk works, right?
Yep.
But that whole group being able to do these things, these fun things, and create these ideas that let everybody go, wow, that's cool. I want to do that.
You know, it's there's something to be said for the ability, like you hit the nail on the head, to let people be creative and let them kind of run with some of the ideas that may seem absolutely ludicrous at the time. I mean, we wouldn't have half of the parts. Number one, that MetalCloak has created and designed, where people say, well, you know, that's never going to work. For example, Duraflex joint. I mean, those kind of things. When people first see it, everybody there's that group out there that's very resilient. They're very hesitant. They don't want to take on the new things. And you and I have talked about this before. You know, you have that bell curve type of how people take on new things, and after a while, you see it more and more. People are more acceptable. But even something like I don't know, the things that came to mind. I was thinking about a sway bar where you have quick disconnects. Then you have the Curry iteration of an anti-rock, and now you've got I think it's Ibex is the company that has the big long shaft with a sliding ring that goes up and down it,
like a strut.
Again, and I'm sure even in those companies they were all like, "This is ridiculous. What are we doing? We'll try it. We'll throw it out there," and then all of a sudden, it works.
Right. Well, like the 6-pack shock, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's like, well, wait a second. You know, especially I still remember that board meeting, sitting down and going, we're going to make a shock. I have this idea. And we're like, you know, we don't make anything functional, right?
Right.
We make body. I mean, everything's functional, but nothing has moving parts.
Right.
Big difference between welding together fenders and flares and rockers and all that kind of stuff and bumpers, and then making something that actually has moving parts to it, right? But what Doug wasn't swayed, and so we approved us a very small sum. Well, today it was a small sum. Back then it was like, wow, that's a big chunk of money we're about to approve for this project to better work.
And what year did the 6-pack come out? It was
It was 11, I believe.
11 or 12, something like that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think it was 2011. Off-Road Expo 2011, I think, is when we did the debut of the 6-pack. Because our first, and I use Off-Road Expo as the measurement because Off-Road Expo in 2009 we just had a 10x20 with the TJ stuffed in there. 2010 we had a 20x20, which was the old spot held by. That was Kilby. So Kilby Manufacturing had a Brad. 20x20. Brad moved off. We took his 20x20 spot, and then we just had a Jeep. But the next year, 2011, we came back, and that's when we had the JK all flexed out, with the 6-pack, 3.5-inch lift, and looking like it was on a long arm kit, but flexed out on a 32-inch ramp. It was pretty cool. So yeah, that was the big display explaining the 6-pack. You could actually go up. You remember you could actually go up to the 6-pack.
Oh yeah, we had the device where we could actually work the 6-pack. Yeah, you
could work the 6-pack. We also had the control arm device. You could play the control arm game, right? But yeah, that was the idea. Like, here's this thing that is completely unusual. But hey, let's go for it. And turned out that it works for a lot of people, right?
And it's funny because even to this day, it's such a fun conversation because people still look at it and go, they'll see suspension and they go, what is that?
Right.
We needed to do like a 10th anniversary or something.
Edition. Yeah, that would have been. That's already done. That would have been like.
We could do 11th anniversary.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Different.
So the 13th or 14th, 15th.
14th. Wait,
it's like the 10th anniversary for the company came and went, right? I'm like looking at it going, what's your 10th? Oh yeah, we're already in our 13th year. All right, well, there's no 10th anniversary special.
13 is a lucky number.
That's right. 13's lucky.
Sure, no problem. 13th anniversary. Off-Road Expo. This is our, well, if we count the fact that we didn't go to the last two, it will be our 10th Off-Road Expo that we went to, maybe.
It becomes really complicated because of the last 2 years and how many events and our whole entire world was kind of turned upside down because of COVID. But yeah, it's weird now with so many events going, well, this is we didn't really get to have an event. So do you call it the 15th year if you skipped one, or is it the 16th? Because that's.
Well, you'd be like TDS. It's like their 59th and a half.
Yeah.
Right. This is their 50th. They don't want to have a 60th anniversary. So they'll keep going. It'll be the 59th and 3/4 if they can't do their 60th.
If they can't do it again, right.
They'll just keep stretching it out until they can have their 60th.
Yeah.
Or you like Jeepers Jamboree, which you guys, if you haven't already bought tickets, you're out. But it's the 70th anniversary. And let me tell you, Jeepers Jamboree anniversary years are just hellaciously gangbusters, party central for 3 days, 3 nights, whatever. There's a whole nother world there. Let's talk a little bit about land use, though, that's interesting happening with that world of the Rubicon. So the Rubicon, and we all know this because we're working on the Modern Jeeper Adventure Rubicon edition. But this whole new thing happening where basically you have El Dorado County, who has fully embraced the ownership of the county road known as the Rubicon Trail. And the fighting for keeping it a county road has kept it out of any other land use or any other things. It's not a part of a state park or anything. It's a county road. As such, they maintain it as a county road to the degree that a trail needs to be maintained, understanding it's still a trail. It crosses over into a county called Placer County. Well, Placer County is another county. It's actually a fairly conservative county in our region, but they monitor it and they use law enforcement on it, and they do a lot of things related to that road. But it happens to go through several different national forests as it goes through there, right? One is the Tahoe Basin National Forest, and as it goes through. So because of that, a couple of years ago, these different various groups got together and said, well, who actually has jurisdiction over this section of the Rubicon Trail? It was determined, and I don't know this for a fact, my opinion is that Placer said, you know what? We don't have to maintain it. We don't have to. That's fine. We got other things to deal with. We got big cities like Roseville and other stuff to deal with. This is a little obscure section of our county. That's fine. We're happy to have sheriffs run on it. In fact, we sponsored the rig that they use. The Placer County Sheriff's Department has a rig, and we've sponsored that. But sure, National Forest wants to maintain this. Great. 2 years later, National Forest is now very proactively going after anybody who uses the Rubicon Trail for commercial purposes. So whether you're Nina Barlow or local Rubicon Trail adventures, or in this case, Jeepers Jamboree or Modern Jeeper Adventures, if you go through that section, which is actually a small section of it and somewhat of the more boring part of the trail in the first place, it's beautiful, but it's not a lot of climbing and activity. But it is that little section. I do believe, and I may be wrong on this, I do believe includes Cadillac Hill. So that's one thing, but it goes beyond that. If you go through that section, you have to pay a fee and licensing and everything to the National Forest.
You actually have to, they will issue you a special use or conditional permit. I think it's special use, but yeah, that is new. And for folks that have never had to deal with some of the bureaucracies of how the permit processing works. We've talked about it in prior episodes, but again, whether we like it or we don't, it's something we got to deal with, and it helps protect those resources. Again, I'm not going to get into the political aspect of it. Well, that's a bunch of crap, and we should be able to go where we want and do what we want when we want. You're utilizing a land that is you're utilizing a land that is managed by some other resources, and they want their hand in that pie.
They do. So like in the case of Jeepers Jamboree, I mean, they've had to deal with it, but it's 3%. So 3% of our revenue has to be paid to them for the purposes of maintaining that road and doing whatever they need to do in that area. And we understand it. I mean, it's interesting in that what they're doing proactively. And we saw BLM doing this a few years ago when people were really harsh on violating BLM rules and getting out there doing filming, where they basically had one person searching the web, and every time they found some commercial entity posting imageries or video or stuff that obviously came from Moab and was not permitted, they were going after them. So what we got was, and they didn't going after, they're just reaching out and saying, hey, just letting you know,
hey,
here's the process. There's a new process in town. Didn't know if you knew about it, the new sheriff, and we're here to enforce things. And you can, here's the data information. Let us know what you want to do. At this point, we're still planning Modern Jeeper Adventure, so we don't know what our overall game plan will be. But there is going to be a Modern Jeeper Adventure on the Rubicon. And, it's very easy to go down a path of going, well, this is how you get around that. But, or you can simply embrace and done what we do at all of our Modern Jeeper Adventures, which is embrace the community around us, embrace the rules and regulations that are there, and make sure that we have a fun event for people.
We've come across this in other with other entities that have had events, and they keep it under radar. They may not they don't advertise that there's a charge for their event or whatever the case may be. And I'm not I'm not got my flame suit on. We don't need a bunch of hate mail going, well, this is how we run our stuff. I don't care. I'm just saying that people choose to do business a certain way, and we've always chosen to do business a certain way as well. It's much easier to embrace it, pay a fee, jump through the hoops, do what they're asking, and move on, rather than hoping that we don't get caught and then later there's an issue. And I got to tell you, we've all been fairly lucky over all these years of people going out in groups and nobody getting hurt, because liability is huge these days. And again, this all keeps us in that mode of we have to protect ourselves as well as everybody else that we take out. So
right, exactly. But I don't know, I haven't gone on this path, but the whole idea is that there is the world that has to go, and there's things that are changing every day. That's right. The Rubicon Trail is a great resource. There's a lot of great resources and stuff out there. We just have to maintain and support. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. You guys came back from. I mean, we're 15, 20 minutes into this thing, and we haven't even talked about the stuff we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we just finished Jeep Beach, which was another, it was a great year, great event. One of the biggest events that's held in the East each year. The weather was phenomenal. There's always a good turnout. But there's I think there's a lot of people out there in the industry that are going, hey, seem to be a little bit down in attendance. But I will say that there's a lot more vendors there this year. I think Kurt told me we had like 260 plus vendors. Think about that, 260 vendors. Everybody has at least a tent, even if you had it as a 10 by 10.
That represent like 50 companies?
Yeah, right. For some companies, yes, because they only,
like that was 260 vendors, but really only 50 companies, and half of them were owned by wheel pros.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool. It was cool to be out there, and I think they raised a ton of money for charity and whatnot, and it'll be interesting to see what their numbers produce. But we have so much more coming. We have Panama Jeep Jam coming up in Panama Beach City next weekend. Wow. We're almost to our Rocklander ARS Modern Jeeper $20,000+ giveaway that's coming up very soon.
Yeah, more about that soon, because we got to talk about that. But I want to go back to this Panama City idea. I'm curious because events have cycles, and Jeep Beach, prior to Jeep Beach, and I forget what it was called, but there was what was the big event in Florida before Jeep Beach? Was it the Jeeptoberfest?
Well, that's in October, but that was a big event.
There was another event that was like the event of in Jeep. Then Jeep Beach starts up and it starts growing, and it was in Florida, and that was the region. I just remember it in the back of my head. Jeep Beach started small and it started growing, and it was a cool thing, and it started building up and it started going, and it became the event, right? And that other event kind of faded away. Like it just wasn't as important as it was.
Yeah, and I can't remember.
And I'm wondering from the world, maybe our listeners out there know what I'm talking about. But then we get to the other side. Now, are we in a cycle now where maybe Jeep Beach has reached its pinnacle? Because 2 years ago, the event that was open was the Panama City Jeep Jam, right? And so all of a sudden, a lot of people that never gone to that event went to that event and enjoyed it so much that maybe like last year that became their thing. And, to the point, last year was a weird one because it was a first time out. So but now you're settling into the normal routine. And with two events being that close to each other,
Right.
you know, maybe people are being a little bit more discriminative about how they're going to spend their money or where they're going to go. And is Jeep Beach on a different part of the cycle? Maybe they're going down. I mean, they've gone big. They have 260 vendors. They're a corporation now instead of a club. Because of that, there's a semblance of less transparency than there was before as a club. And so structurally, does that cause problems? They don't have the growth or the drive to do it as well. Who knows what that all means?
Right.
But ultimately you have to have attendance. So now I'm going to be very curious in a couple weeks when you guys talk about Panama City and how it compared to Jeep Beach. Because I got to imagine there's a lot of other vendors that are doing what you guys are doing and hanging out on the East Coast and just getting ready to head over to Panama City.
Well, you know, we had in the few years past, we've always had, the reason we have stayed was because we had another event this coming weekend. Gosh, where'd those guys go? I don't even want to talk about it. But
the event that shall never be. Oh my gosh.
We also had some coordinators from other events show up to Jeep Beach to check it out. To see maybe how it compared to theirs, or to see if they can make it better. And it was kind of interesting to see those coordinators kind of hanging out and
kind of going, okay, what are you guys doing that maybe we can take back away from this for our event? And again, I think that, and we've seen this in other events as well, things tend to get so big that they become unmanageable. But you know what, the staff that Jeep Beach does have, those guys, I know they put in a lot of hours. And
they listen, they adapt.
Yeah, they're always,
they make changes on the fly. So
they're always very good to us and making sure that the vendors are happy. But you're right. There may be a point where that size becomes an issue. Resources become an issue, and we are still seeing so many places that aren't either. I mean, in the middle of the week, on a weeknight or even on a weekend during the day, like places aren't open because they don't have help. And that's so weird to go into a tourist location where, oh, I'm sorry, our restaurant's closed. We're only open from 6 till 9 on Friday and Saturdays because we don't have help.
A lot of that.
And that's weird.
Or stores not open during the days, and it's kind of interesting to see, especially a whole resort that you're supposed to be able to sit and do everything in this place.
These places don't want you to leave because you're going to leave and spend money somewhere else. Yet they don't have the resources to keep their own internal structure open.
Interesting.
But it's definitely interesting.
It is an odd world because we're seeing, it's just, I think there's a lot of people are choosing that there's alternate ways of making a living. And there's some, whether it's, I don't care, whether it's TikTok or OnlyFans or, I mean, like, it's like there's the story of this girl that was on like, Dr. Phil's show. And she was young. She was on Dr. Phil's. She's legendary. I don't even know her name, but turns 18, goes on OnlyFans. And in her first year makes $52 million and no nudity. It's just high quality, like erotica photos. But she just, I mean, and she has a high school education, if that, right? But there's so much money out there going to people to do other things, to be content creators, to be things that some people are just like, I don't want to wash dishes.
Well, we've seen a lot of people come out of retirement too and are working 80 hours just to help out. And then they're like, well, this was supposed to be retirement and I'm working a full-time job.
And I barely cleared $1 million last year on my OnlyFans page. And so now I'm kind of curious. I got to watch this.
That was pesos, right?
Pesos, yes. Because I can't have it in this country just because
it's not the only fans. It was the only fan. Only fan, like gave me,
my only fan page.
Everybody wants to be famous.
I imagine there must be at least 5 people that want to see me in dressed in bourgeois.
And feet. I heard feet are the popular thing. Feet videos or feet pictures.
Really? There's
I mean,
feet
I've
foot
been
fetish?
asked for feet pictures before, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
With or without? Like, I mean, you have to have like, do you have to have a pedicure? Or
You
can
have to
just
do.
go
They
on?
ask you to do certain things with your feet, or make
Really?
certain poses or whatever, and you're like,
Like
don't get it.
like little like
Yeah.
shadow
Like
puppets
Squishing your
with your
feet through the
shadow
sand
puppets for
or
your
through
feet,
Play-Doh or
and sand.
all kinds
Ooh,
of weird.
Play-Doh.
squish Play-Doh with your feet.
I'm
Ooh,
telling you,
like toothpaste in the toes.
I've never done it. Don't even. No. Will
I guess
not.
your feet would smell good. I don't know.
Yeah, that might be good for you.
Describe
So,
the smell.
do they want like because mine being post surgery, pocketed, calloused, yeah, would
Well,
that go?
there's
gotta be
there's that show Dr. Pimple Popper, and that apparently is
Yeah.
intriguing to people. So I don't know.
Dude,
We watched it a
dude,
couple of times, and
It
I'm
is
like,
intriguing.
there are DM channels with 5 million followers where it's just a dermatologist commenting on somebody popping pimples.
Yeah.
Like or pulling like
People just
pull, and the dermatologist be like, oh yeah, okay, good technique. Gloves are fine. Okay, good. All right, so that's it. All right, now he's pulling. Okay, oh, this is a long one, and it's just like an ingrown hair that just keep coming out longer and longer. Oh, it's a long one.
bleh!
Okay,
there are pickers out there. I'm
So-
telling you.
And we're worried about content.
yeah, I'm telling you, man. Like we've got to do something. Like, okay, guys, ladies and gentlemen, all right, here it is. I got one right here. All right,
Yeah, here we go.
I go. Okay, I'm not wearing gloves.
No,
I'm not
that's
getting.
gross.
Oh, Jesus.
I know.
It's just
We're
wrong.
obviously we're actually too family friendly. I think we remarket ourselves.
Yeah,
we
right.
We got to we got to start cussing and like make explicit.
Cussing and
like
and just
Wrecking,
doing
wrecking
shots
our
and
stuff.
I was impressed with Sean Holman's interview because he was very tame on that. But if you ever listen to the Truck Show podcast, like their top podcast, yeah, I heard them. Only time I never really listened to the podcast until they came through Off-Road Expo years ago, and they came by and interviewed MetalCloak, and we talked to them. And they're in the background, they're talking, and it's just every other word was an F-bomb, right? They're just dropping the
I have a
F-bombs
filter
just in
switch
there.
on my neck.
Yeah.
You didn't know.
Yeah. It was like, I'm like, it was like, okay, yeah, a little different, but people are into that. I guess they want it. Yeah, they want
well,
it.
and we were so. I remember in the early days, of course, we had comments about political comments. We were out, like we're out, and you know what? I mean, I get it. Everybody's got their preferences, but and they're not going to listen to certain things and other things, and I don't know. I think it's. Maybe we're too sensitive sometimes, and we should just wing it. And I don't know. I got nothing.
We got that's fine. It's fine. That's okay. Our 3 million followers.
Right.
That well, is that 1 divided by 2.7 million?
We got to start doing more. And we were talking about this a little bit ago. So. YouTube, people don't understand the level of YouTube expertise, and I saw a great graphic the other day, and of course it was a pyramid, and at the very bottom you have no high school, and then you have high school level education, then you have college level, and you have a master's degree, then you have a PhD, and at the very top of that educational pyramid you have the YouTubers. The YouTube installers, the YouTube how-toers, and that's kind of where our society's at. Like,
you mean they call it YouTube University?
They should give out diplomas.
YouTube University.
I'm a YouTube professional.
YouTube prof.
YouTube master.
YouTube master. YouTube could be a YouTube master.
YouTube
Yeah,
master.
it's interesting you say that because there's so many things. One, let's flip that over. There's so much you can learn. So much you can learn on this, on just the way it goes, right? There's so much you can learn about life on YouTube. There's so much you can learn about what you do. Like you could learn how to build a house just from watching YouTube videos. My dad, I think we talked about this before. My dad had the Time Life books. Everything my dad hid on the house, he had from his Time Life books. He had the full stack of Time Life books, and they were all across, and they were everything from electrical to framing, everything. That's everything he learned about how to do stuff in the house was from those Time Life books, right? All of that exists on a million plus YouTube videos now from
Right.
everything on how to properly do in a screw and how to, all these other things, to the point that content creators have to get clever. And now it's hacks on how to do all that, right? You don't have to use a Phillips screwdriver. You can use a pin, right? It's
right.
Can't go to bookstores anymore.
Well, it's because nobody can read.
They still have National Geographic, by the way. We did look. They have magazines.
National Geographic, the magazine still is published. We stopped at a Barnes and Noble.
I was like,
wow, I haven't been in Barnes and Noble in forever.
Oh, it was so weird.
I used to love going and getting like the Starbucks, and just I would sit in the aisle. Now my girlfriend at the time would go to another aisle. I would sit on the floor of the aisle of the books of the business book section. I just start picking up books and sitting there reading. It was so cool.
Yeah. Yep.
It was fun.
It was weird going in one, and it's weird because they still had a bunch of books. They also still sold CDs.
Books still exist.
LPs.
Well, LPs are probably like 10 times the price they usually are now, because now they're collectible.
Right. They actually sold turntables. It was like what?
Yeah.
Well, they
USB turntables.
USB. What?
Yeah.
So the whole idea, though, like I work with my kids on books, right? I want to read books to them. I want them to love books. At the same time, they have their pads, right? I talked to a lady in the park the other day, and I kind of felt bad because it's like my daughter was very upset. She's like, "Well, why is I was asking her, why was your daughter upset? Well, because I wouldn't take her to the library to get a new book. Like, I could only hope that there's a point in my time with my kids, and they're never going to need to go to the library. I always got so many friggin' books around the house, but that they want. They yearn for the books, right? And not just because even I have a bunch of books on my Kindle that I read, but I kind of separate it in my mind. Like I read on my Kindle, I read business books, or I read books about different companies, that sort of thing. That's what I read on it. When I'm sitting around the house, if I'm reading a Jack Reacher, I'm reading the book, right? If I'm reading a novel, I'm reading the book. I want to hold the book in my hand. I just reading that is just, I might as well just listen to the audiobook, right? Which I can't do.
Well, it's funny. So my Kindle books are, I very rarely read stories anymore. And I've been like that my whole life. I always want it I always read reference stuff. No real fiction. I'm all about, I want to look something up, or I want to learn how to do something better. But as a reference, the electronic format is horrible because I got to go to a section fast.
Right.
And can't really, and it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, exactly. When you're actually trying to study something, the whole idea going back and forth. I love being able to click a word and look it up immediately.
Yes.
Right. I love being able to do that. I love to look things up on Wikipedia, just click a word and be able to do that. But so I wish I kind of had that in both worlds, right? But yeah, you can't quick reference through things. But I'm with Jesse. I like to escape. And when I escape with books,
fantasy novels.
Fantasy.
Well, if I can't read it, if it's not in the middle of my dash and I can't read while I'm driving, I mean, what's the point?
Right. So that's when they have the heads-up display. And it'll just be like, that'll be awesome. So the text is just rolling in front of you.
Audiobooks, yeah. Like, whatever happened to that?
I can listen to podcasts, but see, here's the thing. Like, I'm only down to a few podcasts that I actually have time for because my commute's so short. I hop in and I do it. One is my new favorite podcast is called the All In podcast. All In, like betting, all in. It is three billionaires and a guy, but they call them the besties. Is Jason Calacanis, Chamath, who was the guy head of growth over at Facebook. Forget the last two names, rolling off the top of my tongue, but they're talking about these are four guys who are incredibly smart, all with different political opinions, who are tackling every week. They tackle the things of what's going on economically. They were talking about the food shortage that was the upcoming food shortage weeks ago, or a couple months ago when this war first started. They were talking about there was going to be a food shortage and giving you ideas on it. Predicting the recessionary numbers that we had just last quarter, right? All these things. So incredibly smart guys who every day are living and breathing the economics and situations of the world because they're all heavily invested. I mean, they're investors and they have SPACs and they have other things. Just having my current favorite podcast because of this. It's like us. It's unbridled. It's not documented. It's not agenda driven. It is just four best friends who were having a BS session for a couple of hours on the topics of the day, but really digging into them and really setting some perspectives politically and otherwise. But
Interesting.
I listen to like 5 minutes of it, one back and forth, and then I get through that episode, and then I can throw in another acquired episode about some other thing, and then go back. So and then occasionally I get to have the pleasure of just listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, which, that's full on like, okay, I'm going to veg out for a little bit, but I can't do audiobooks.
The story side, I used to do the audiobook thing, but again, I'm interested in I got to learn something about something, and we also have to be careful where we get that information though, because now, even something as simple. So, one of the things we were talking about is the Ford and Honda this year pulling out of SEMA, which is a huge thing. But then it's kind of funny because certain news is so weird, and just like how to work on your Jeep from a forum can be twisted, and you may not get the right answer or the right advice, or it may be the gist of it, but maybe not all of the details. Clickbait.
I call it clickbait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all deal with that. And we see the link and we click on it and we get to the article and we're like,
oh, that's not what it is.
Wow, 30 minutes later, I still don't even have anything that was relevant to what the title said.
Have you noticed how many articles come out? They look like they're machine written.
Yes.
They look like they're AI written. I mean, it's not even just bad English. It's just, it looks like some of these websites out there are simply generating content. They're doing a search, and I don't know this to be a fact, but in my mind, they're looking at Google Trends. They're grabbing what's Google trending, and in their category, and then they gather a bunch of stuff, and then it spits out an article. And I know this technology exists because I can actually pay for it to be done. For like, if I wanted to have somebody produce content for MetalCloak, they would just, here's a content producer, right? So technology exists to do this, but they just spit out these articles. And the next thing you know, it's out there, but it's clickbait because of the fact that, one, it's a trending topic, and two, they're just going for that gather. All they want to do is get somebody on our site. And it's just amazing.
And some of these websites are just hilarious. Like, you have all variations of motor something, and I'm like, well, who is this website? And you start to look, and it's pretty obscure, and there's no about us, and it's like, where's all of their stories are identical to press releases from other companies, and it's kind of like, huh?
Yeah, I just figured out something. I think our whole shtick is wrong. I think we just need to drop the whole modern Jeeper, like this podcast about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers, and we're just going to be like a commentary podcast. How effed up is the world, or something like that. We're just gonna have a new. That's what we're gonna do every week. We're just gonna, if you guys want to talk, we're gonna talk about Jeeps because we love Jeeps, and that's what we're out doing. But the reality is, you want to come join us, we're just gonna talk about how effed up the world is today.
Well, and too bad we can't do a podcast where we have some interaction, because I think a lot of our listeners, when they're listening, and we've had these comments go, I wish we could like reach out and say, yeah, just
do them live.
And yeah, we need to do like
we need some live.
Well, we need to do a live like we're going to do on the 21st.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
yes.
So guys, listening out there, like this is what's today's date. Well, when this thing goes live, it'll be May 5th. All right.
Yep.
On May 21st, we're doing our giveaway for the 20K Ultimate Rocklander 20K giveaway on May 21st. That means online entries are going to end somewhere around, like, I think I have May 18th targeted, but it's probably going to be like May 19th.
Gotcha.
So May 19th or 20th will be I'll just look at how difficult it is to manage some of the entries, but I think May 19th is probably going to be the deadline to enter. So you're going to see all big push for it, because we're pushing it. We want everybody to possibly enter who can. And if you've already entered, remember to go to that page, because at the end of the page, there's the opportunity to go, and once you enter in, it pops up and says how you can get more entries, right? Sharing it, letting people know about it. Right.
And we will be hanging out at Off-Road Expo West, which our friend Jim, that's working now with Demos, the Demos Collective, they were approved and they've got a booth. So they were on a waiting list, and now they have a huge booth there. So that show is going to be great.
And I just decided, this morning after talking to John, I'm going to print a bunch of shirts to give away. There'll be
cool.
we're going to do some Rocklander Adventure Club shirts. And I'll get Jim's sign off on this to give a bunch of shirts. We'll do a DMOS and Adventure Rack System shirt for the Rocklander Adventure Club. So if you're out there, come on by and get your shirts. But yeah, this is going to be a live event. We're going to do it from there. Have no idea how we're going to do it, guys. Quite frankly,
I don't either. We'll figure it out. Hopefully, we'll have a signal of some kind, and
hopefully there'll be a signal. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it. Hopefully, we. Otherwise, like I said, we'll go into town and sit in some diner someplace.
Right.
But
I'm sure one of the overlanding rigs will have some kind of a booster antenna that we can steal.
Sure. We need to find one of those big ones. So one of those big like survival rigs that has like the big satellite and the internet and the 40-inch tires.
Totally.
Yeah. We totally missed that whole little section we were talking about. And you guys, we go all over the place, but you were talking about rigs and how big and stuff is today. And we're going back to those original Rubicon rigs and the fact that it was 31-inch tires that they were put on there. And that's right. It's hard to remember. I have this vision. I don't know because I can't go back and remember these days. But when I was working at a service station in high school, I worked at a Shell station on the corner of what was it? It was Carmichael Shell, and it was on Marconi and Walnut. And I worked at that Shell station. I had two buddies from high school who had rigs. One had a flatty, old, I have no idea what years. One had an early Bronco. And they went on the Rubicon every weekend. And I think I've told this story before. Almost every weekend, one of them came back with a flat tire, right? Because tires sucked back then. But to this day, like I have this vision that they were on like 35s or 37s or something like that, right?
Right.
And I'm pretty sure if I could go back into my previous self and take a look at it, and they probably weren't even near that. Like I have this vision of them being like built on these big wheels and big tires. That's what my mind has convinced myself what I saw. But I'm pretty sure we go back, that's probably going to be something completely disappointing.
Well, and that is the biggest, maybe biggest isn't the right word. The first thing that people upgrade on their Jeeps statistically in the entire country over the last 10 years, the first thing they think about is wheels and tires.
Right.
And it's so funny because everywhere we go in the country, it's always different, right? I mean, wheels and tires are wheels and tires. Well, not necessarily. Of course, the trend, and even from the manufacturer's perspective, has been bigger wheels and not like wider, but I mean, bigger diameters. So, we all had 15-inch wheels back in the day, and then it was 17s, and manufacturers now, the trucks are 18s. Well, it's most of the time to fit a larger size disc brake caliper on that axle. So as the axles got bigger, the wheels had to get bigger. But now people are still putting these large diameter wheels, 20s, 22s, 24s, on their Jeeps. And again, what's the number one question asked in all these Facebook off-road groups? How big a tire can I fit on my stock rig?
Right.
Why do people most of the time put a lift on their Jeep? It's to fit that bigger tire that they want. It's not because they're going to go off-road and do crazy stuff. It's just because they want to put a bigger tire on their Jeep.
Right. So, well, the basic philosophy on a lift is you want to lift your rig so you can put on bigger tires so you clear your axle more from hitting obstacles, right? That's the only reason. Listen, guys, if we could all run with small tires for the fun of it, we would, just because we could. But
yeah, I mean, we get better fuel economy, which apparently, even though the price of gas is super expensive, we don't really care about that because we all want bigger, better. Anyways, I digress. My point in being in the bigger tire realm, it's interesting because we see a lot of rigs now, especially down here in Florida, and it's unfortunate because I saw a guy that had posted his Jeep on one of the MetalCloak Owners Club, and it's a very nice Jeep, and it was very well built. And you know what? He has, I think they were 22s or 24-inch wheels, and they're 14.5 wide tires. He doesn't do a lot of off-roading, and he got a very low score because it wasn't very flexy, and people were giving him a really hard time about it. And I'm like, man, it's too bad that we can't let people just build what they want to build. And he actually had the installer put in some additional bump stops. He was running all of them that come with the kit, which is 4 with 2 more in there. I think he had 6 in the back of his rig to keep the tire out of the fender well. And people were just like, well, that you shouldn't do that. You need to
Did
do
they not
this and
tell
you
you
do this.
this? Did they not tell you that?
People need to
Yeah.
sometimes refrain from having an opinion and let people do what they want to do. It's their Jeep. I'm sorry that they built it a certain way that you didn't like, but yeah, it's kind of a bummer, and I hope this gentleman doesn't get disappointed, and because he was thinking clearly that he had done something wrong, and that he needs to probably take his Jeep back to his installer because he spent quite a bit of money. It's a great looking Jeep, by the way, and I'm sure it handles amazingly on the highways where he spends the majority of his time. So I don't know. I guess
But
maybe
that
that's my little rant.
But that's the modern Jeeper. That's why that was the whole concept of the modern Jeeper, was that the modern Jeeper could be somebody who is building a Jeep as a grocery getter, is building a Jeep for a show, is building a Jeep that may never see the light of day, is building a
That's right.
Jeep that's going to go all the way up and down the Rubicon and can do that 5 times in a day. It doesn't matter
Right.
what it
Or
is, but
show
in
big or
this
whatever.
overlandings, whatever. That's the whole idea of a modern Jeeper, is we don't want to be judgmental. Everybody has the right to build what they want to build. Unfortunately, everybody has an opinion too, right?
Yes.
And in my opinion, there are good opinions and there are bad opinions, and people are going to share them, and it is what it is. But it is too bad that you can't simply go, hey man, it's a really cool build. It's not how I would do it. It's not how I would
Right.
set it up. It's not exactly
Right.
what I would do because my goal is X. But what's your goal with your rig, right? And we get that all the time with customers. It's like, I want to do that. Hey, I talk customers out of 6-packs. Why? Because
Yep.
they're never going to use them for that. Why
It may
spend
not be the shock
$1,600?
for them. That's right.
But if they want it for the bling factor, go for it. Right?
More power to them. I know a lot of areas, they have fender coverage rules and that kind of thing where they have to have the entire tire covered with a fender, and full width bumpers. And some places they don't have those laws, but you see people and when their rigs are flexed out, their tire would be right up against a full width front bumper, and
Right.
people are like, oh, you need to cut that off. Well, if that particular person has laws that state that they have to have a full width bumper, they can't. But yet we're going to make fun of that guy and go, well, that's stupid. He can't even turn his wheel at full flex. You know what? He may not be at full flex all the time. So again, we try to do everything we can to help people out that we see when we notice those kind of things. But they probably don't necessarily know the whole story, I guess, is my point of why things are done a certain way. But we're so visually driven by what we see as a picture or somebody doing something, and we immediately just take and we run off the hook with
Or
it.
everybody's a mechanic, a YouTube mechanic.
That's a pro installer that lives at the top of the food chain there. Yeah,
YouTube Pro. That's it.
I'm a YouTube pro installer.
Maybe like Twitter, you can have like a little, like a red check mark on YouTube that says you are a professional. You've proven that you're a professional.
You've proven it, yes.
You are, because I am a professional. I'm on YouTube. Look at the two of us. We're on YouTube. I mean, look at the three of us.
Right.
We're on YouTube. And we talk about all stuff. So everything we say must be right.
Now, I will say that I too go to YouTube quite frequently when I need some information to find out how to do something. Absolutely. That's become kind of an easy place rather than looking through that digital reference book.
Isn't it amazing though how many people have done things like I'll look at things about working on the refrigerator or working on the washer and dryer and stuff. Someplace, some person went and said, I'm going to go ahead and many times it's marketing. Like it's part of we are an HVAC company. And so we're going to talk to you about HVAC systems and stuff and how to work on maintenance them. But you can always call us if you want it done professionally, but here's how we would do it. Right. Or understanding different systems and different fireplaces, all that's there. And it's incredible that somebody has done. I don't think there's ever been anything I've looked for on YouTube that I haven't found some answer for.
Right. You can find a schematic to some obscure motor that isn't even made anymore. Like, here's how we repaired that.
Yeah. I worked on my GL 1000, like my old Goldwing. I worked on it on a bunch of stuff from YouTube videos.
Crazy.
I found him a stalker too.
Stalker.
Everybody thought everybody was stalking me, but we found a stalker, Corey. There is another, I guess it's an anvil color LJ that we saw at a stoplight. It looks just like Golden Spike, except it's different color. And they were so ecstatic that we pulled up beside him because her husband was stalking Corey for 3 years.
They built
his rig exactly like Golden Spike, and it's to the T. I'm not kidding. Everything.
Wow, you got a fan.
It was cool, and I have a picture of it on the CCI trainer. Sorry, we got some.
That's okay.
But they got 1110 on the CTI trailer.
Yeah.
So
wow. But
It
this
was
was,
a great looking LJ guy.
did you get a selfie with your stalker?
Yeah. No selfies, but
You didn't take a Sharpie and sign his left breast or anything?
what was so cool about the whole experience is we actually had left the speedway after we were setting up, and I pulled up next to him, and I'm like, wow, that's a good looking LJ. And I looked at the rear of it, and I'm like, wow, like it's got the MetalCloak tail plate on it and all the gold, and I'm like,
painted armor
pulled
on
up next to him. It's a 6-inch lock and
long
load with 6
arms,
packs.
everything.
Like, yeah.
That's awesome.
He looked over and he waved, and then a minute goes by and he was like, "Oh my God, it's you guys! You guys, it's." And we're driving down Daytona International Boulevard, and he's yelling, "It's your fault! I built this Jeep to mimic yours, and I talked to you 3 years ago." And yeah, it was very cool.
That's so cool. That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So it's confirmed. Corey has at least one fan.
There's one. Yeah, my first fan.
Corey 1, Matson 0. Nobody's copied him any of my builds, you know. Only fan I ever had was some guy back in like 10 years ago. I'm on the Rubicon, the back end of the Rubicon near Devils, whatever it is. And we're going back through, and there were some guys that were stuck there. And I was in my YJ at the time, and I'm going through, and this guy goes, "Oh, hey, I've got your YJ as my screensaver."
That's cool.
That was it.
Nice.
That was the only time. Like that was 10, 12 years ago. And after that, nobody's a fan. I don't have any fans. There's no posters of me hanging in, you know. Maybe we should we're gonna do the next Modern Jeeper. Since you're in charge of photos, the next Modern Jeeper is gonna be all just images of actual Modern Jeepers.
Pose with
we're all gonna do nice. I like it. No Jeeps. Just actual Modern Jeepers.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Oh, I'll get to show him now.
Oh, he's never seen the Burt Reynolds pose?
Apparently not.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's think Playgirl.
Yeah.
Oh, like the Farrah Fawcett posters and those kind of things.
Yeah, but it's Burt Reynolds in Playgirl.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see it.
That.
Yeah, you'll see it.
I don't know about that.
Oh, the horses are coming in, so that's why the dogs are freaking out.
I got to give a shout out to our friend Ricky and his whole family once again this year from Jeepers Den. We're staying at their residence for a few days, and you know what a amazing thing that they're still going to work and going to school, and they got lots of stuff going on with their kids and everything else. And I mean, he has an orchard of oranges that he has to come home and take care of every night, and they're letting us hang out during the day and get some work stuff done and get some R&R a little bit, and
they're not making you work in the orchard.
Well, I helped him load up a trailer this morning, so I did. I put in my
to get on the mower.
Jesse volunteered to mow the grass, but when you have I don't know how many acres he has here,
at least 20.
But
right?
when he
like
has
3,000 trees, right?
Yeah, and he mows grass almost continuously.
Every
I think.
day, a little at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it's also it's not cheap to spend the night down here in Florida, so it's pretty cool that he's opened up his house and said, you know what, you guys have run of the place. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We have a couple of Rottweilers here with us, and Smokey, the little dog that you just saw. Yes. If you're watching the YouTube video, and we're sitting in front of a pool, but the pool's a little chilly.
That's never stopped any kids. It's got to go.
It does not stop the kids for sure.
Does he have solar for his pool, or just?
I don't think so.
Oh,
no.
Yeah. You would think he'd have solar.
It's like 58 degrees.
Yeah.
Wow. See, and it's nice and hot in Florida. If you had solar pool system, it'd be like 70, 80 degrees year round.
I think he has a heater, but I'm guessing it'd probably be pretty expensive to heat it. So I don't know a whole lot about the whole pool in a Florida thing. So
yeah, interesting. Yeah, it'd be pretty hard. Yeah, the electric or gas, very expensive to heat.
Yeah.
So, but solar pool systems, guys, I used to sell them. So, it's yeah, recirculate through the system, makes it easy. All you need is the power of a pump, and it puts it through. You just put it on top of your roof, circulates it. Then gives you in Sacramento area, especially, gives you like an extra 2 months on either side of the pool season.
Oh, wow!
Because it starts warming it up early.
I tried to talk Jessy into jumping into the pool for the ModernJeeper Show, but she wasn't having any of it.
Oh, come on. See, that's the kind of stuff we need. That's the kind of stuff we need.
You just have to jump into the pool. You can't just stand in it, because if you stand in it, you're going to definitely say no.
Well, I'll go jump in the pool, but I can't get back out and be on the podcast. So maybe I'll do that as our end.
By the way, I noticed you're wearing the shirt we gave away this year.
Yes.
There we go.
What an amazing dude! We've had so many people like, can we get more of those? Can we buy those?
Hey,
Where can we order them?
Mo, do you want to send me one?
Yeah.
Oh
wow.
Good job to Matson, who picked the colors and did the graphic design on these. They're pretty cool shirts, and they're very light, which is very necessary here.
Next year, let's do this next year. Next year, let's try to get like a volunteer list of sizes from Jeep Beach, like their group, and like we'll send an extra group of them just to the volunteers.
I tried to, of course, Jerry that always runs the obstacle course. We tried to get, I think we gave shirts to him and his family, but I had a couple of volunteers coming up at 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, they gone. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we are going to do shirts for anybody who's going to be out there at Smoky Mountain. So that's our next. We've never done shirts for Smoky Mountain, but I think I've got it targeted to do another 300 shirts for Smoky Mountain. And then, like I said, we're going to do shirts to give away at the Off-Road Expo West. And as we do it, I mean, as other events come up, we'll see about doing it too. It's popular, it's fun, and I just want to kind of do things. And it's easily do.
Smoky Mountain has to have a bear. Has to have a bear.
Has to have a bear.
Has to have a bear on it.
I was just going to put a smoking mountain.
Like
yeah, like that would be
mountain.
good. I was just going to put a mountain with a little, like a puff of smoke.
A bear smoking.
A bear smoking a mountain.
A bear smoking. Oh, mountain. That's isn't that like a slang term for? That we don't. I don't smoke that stuff, guys. We don't play with that game. Smoking a mountain. Jeez.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know that. Only fans.
Right.
Yeah. So next week you got the ModernJeeper roving show is going to be at Panama.
Yeah, we'll be setting up. We'll be setting up. We'll get there Tuesday, so we'll be setting up when we get there, and then that's a 3-day event. So and the same thing like Jeep Beach, they do stuff all week long. So we should be. I think we're going to be in a different location again this year from what Jamie had said. We'll be over by the obstacle course, I think, a little bit closer or something. But we'll keep everybody informed as to how that goes.
Cool. So you got that. And then you head back. That's right. You head back so you can get back
to Flagstaff.
To Flagstaff. Yes.
Flagstaff. And then we are home for about a day and a half. And then we have our ModernJeeper adventure in Moab.
Yes, that's right. So, which, by the way, guys, if you're listening to this, you're on Thursday. Deadline to enter for Moab is tomorrow, Friday. So the 6th. Cool. That's it. Yep. So this is it. Last chance to enter to get it. Yep. And once that's in, is done. And then if you have already registered, there'll be the team will be reaching out to you now and getting you guys all sorted in. I know we've had a few emails, inquiries, people, especially from that last round of new registrations we had a week or so, like, oh wait, haven't you heard from each other? So it will be good to go. But I know there's all kinds of exciting stuff happening in Moab this year.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cool. So anything else on your long list? Because you had a bunch of stuff you wanted to talk about. I think we only maybe hit like 3
I did. I think we pretty got much through it. I mean, not a whole lot. Trying to still in the catch up mode of what did we just do? Yeah.
It's all a whirlwind, guys. That's why December is supposed to be like the
for sure. And it does this to us every year. Like we get through with Moab and it's like, oh, I was sorting pictures this afternoon going, look at all these pictures of Moab. Oh, and wait, what didn't we just go to Jeep Beach and how about those jobbers stuff? Yeah. Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. So we'll be out there. We'll be seeing you guys at or at the Overland Expo West, and then I think Mike and I are driving down with my rig on that Thursday. Yeah, that's the 16th. Or no, what am I? I'm in the wrong month. That would be that Thursday there. Okay, there it is. And so we're heading down there on the 19th. We see you guys on 20th, 21st. And then on the 27th, for everybody who happens to be around this region, we are going to have, we do CTIs now. We try to do CTIs on the 3rd or 4th Friday of the month. And so that will be from 2 hours from 3 to 5 on the 27th. We'll have a CTI. And then on June 4th, up at Thompson's Jeep in Placerville, they've invited us to bring the CTI up, and they want to do it. They're doing a customer appreciation day. So we'll have the CTI trailer up there and do it. So if you're up in this region, June 4th or the afternoon of the 27th to get out on the CTI trailer.
Well, and looking a little bit more forward, we'll actually be in Oklahoma. We've got a Jeep open house on the 4th.
Off-road addiction.
At Off-Road Addiction. And then we have 4x4 land and Jeeperama at Kansas Rocks.
And I'm sure that we will be stopping somewhere else to do some more CTIs around that area as well.
So we'll be giving.
I'm still in the process of setting it all up. So.
Cool. Well, as you guys know, if you have anything, you need anything from us, you can reach me at Matson@MetalCloak.com, Corey at MetalCloak.com, Jessy at MetalCloak.com, ModernJeeperAdventures.com, where you can see all our amazing adventures. And I'm telling you guys, the Tillamook is filling up. San Juan is filling up. Those are the ones that are open registrations right now. It's a great year to go out and go jeeping.
For sure.
And so make sure you get on there. If you have any inkling to do those, reach out. Send a message. If you have questions, reach out to us. Happy to answer those for you. And for anything else, by the way, if you have an event that you want Corey and Jessy to come out to, or you would look at sponsorship from MetalCloak and have us send you some swag or send you some things for your goodie bags, reach out to us via the MetalCloak website, and the contact us page has an event sponsorship form. Fill that out, and Jessy will be in touch with you to get you gift certificates or all kinds of good things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That being said, give a big hug to Ricky for me and to his family. Miss that guy.
Definitely.
Been a long time. And otherwise, for all of our modern Jeepers out there, we'll see you on the trails.
Cheers.
See ya.